pay attention to this, as tonight we are decoding the complete philosophy of Aristotle, the forbidden blueprint for mastering reality itself. The man who taught humanity how to think. A man so intellectually powerful that over 2,000 years later, humanity is still living inside systems he helped create. That man was Aristotle. And tonight, we are not merely studying Aristotle. We are entering his mind, because Aristotle did not simply ask questions like other philosophers. He built an entire framework for reality itself. While most people know him as the student of Plato, the truth is far more terrifying. Aristotle surpassed his master. He dissected existence like a surgeon. He categorized human nature. He mapped ethics. He analyzed power. He decoded happiness. He studied the soul. He created formal logic. He examined art, tragedy, persuasion, friendship, ambition, virtue, and destiny itself. And unlike many philosophers who escaped reality through abstraction, Aristotle descended into reality. He wanted to know, what makes a human being flourish? Why do societies collapse? Why do weak minds destroy themselves? What creates greatness? What creates corruption? What is truth? What is purpose? What is the highest possible human life? And perhaps most importantly, how should a human being live? This is not just philosophy. This is a blueprint for mastering existence. Welcome back to Stoic Gateway. So tonight, we will systematically decode the complete philosophy of Aristotle, from ethics to politics, from psychology to metaphysics, from logic to human destiny. And by the end of this journey, you may realize something unsettling. Modern civilization still walks in Aristotle's shadow, and most people have absolutely no idea. If you are ready to enter one of the greatest minds humanity has ever produced, then let us begin. Aristotle was born in ancient Greece. But unlike many philosophers who emerged from poverty or obscurity, Aristotle grew up close to power. His father was a physician to the Macedonian royal family. That matters more than most people realize. Because from childhood, Aristotle was surrounded by biology, anatomy, observation, and systematic thinking. While other children saw mystery, Aristotle learned to examine, to categorize, to observe patterns, and this single habit would eventually transform human civilization. At 17 years old, Aristotle traveled to Athens and entered Plato's academy, the greatest intellectual center in the ancient world. For nearly 20 years, he studied under Plato. And yet, despite admiring his teacher deeply, Aristotle eventually rebelled against him. This is where the philosophical war truly begins. Plato believed ultimate reality existed in abstract ideals, perfect forms beyond the physical world. Aristotle disagreed. He believed truth must be found inside reality itself, not beyond it. This difference changed everything. Plato looked upward. Aristotle looked outward. Plato sought transcendence. Aristotle sought understanding. And from that shift, Western thought was transformed forever. At the core of Aristotle's philosophy lies one revolutionary belief. Everything has a function. Everything. A knife exists to cut. Eyes exist to see. Roots exist to absorb nutrients. Birds exist to fly. And therefore, human beings also have a function. This idea became the foundation of Aristotle's ethics, politics, psychology, an entire worldview, because Aristotle believed happiness is impossible unless you fulfill your true function. Now here is where his philosophy becomes incredibly powerful. Most people today think happiness means pleasure. Aristotle rejected this completely. Pleasure is temporary. Pleasure can destroy you. Pleasure can enslave you. A drunk man experiences pleasure. A corrupt ruler experiences pleasure. A lazy mind experiences pleasure. But none of them flourish. For Aristotle, true happiness was something much deeper. He called it eudaimonia, not happiness in the modern sense, but flourishing, living fully, becoming what you were meant to become. This changes everything, because Aristotle believed the highest human life is not built through comfort, but through excellence. Aristotle believed human beings are shaped by habit, not motivation, not inspiration. Habit. And this may be one of the most important psychological insights ever discovered. Because according to Aristotle, you do not become courageous by thinking about courage. You become courageous by acting courageously repeatedly. You become just by performing just actions, disciplined by practicing discipline, wise by pursuing wisdom. Identity is constructed through repetition. This is centuries ahead of modern psychology, and Aristotle warned that human beings slowly become what they repeatedly do. That means every action matters, every compromise matters. Every excuse matters, because habits crystallize into character, and character becomes destiny. Now here is where Aristotle introduces one of his most famous ideas, the golden mean. He believed virtue exists between extremes. Courage lies between cowardice and recklessness. Confidence lies between insecurity and arrogance. Discipline lies between laziness and obsession. This is not moderation in the weak sense. It is balance through wisdom. Because Aristotle understood something terrifying. Most humans destroy themselves through excess. Too much ego, too much fear, too much anger, too much indulgence, too much passivity. The undisciplined mind always falls toward extremes, and this is why Aristotle believed self-mastery is essential. Without mastery over impulses, freedom becomes impossible. Aristotle believed greatness is not accidental, it is trained. And he noticed something that remains true today. Most people live reactively. They drift through existence, controlled by emotion, controlled by appetite, controlled by social pressure, controlled by pleasure. But the truly exceptional human being operates differently. Aristotle called this person the magnanimous man, the great-souled individual, a person who recognizes their potential and lives according to excellence. Not vanity, not arrogance, but dignity. The great-souled person does not beg for validation, does not chase shallow approval, does not collapse under criticism, because their standard comes from virtue itself. Imagine how rare this is today. Most modern people construct identity from external reactions, likes, attention, status, recognition. Aristotle would see this as slavery, because the moment your self-worth depends on the crowd owns you. And Aristotle despised psychological weakness, not because he lacked compassion, but because weakness prevents flourishing. He believed humans possess extraordinary potential. But potential means nothing without disciplined action. That is why he emphasized education so heavily. Not education merely for career, but education for character. Because an undisciplined mind becomes dangerous to itself, to society, to truth. Before Aristotle, human reasoning was chaotic. Arguments were emotional, contradictory, unstructured. Aristotle changed that forever. He invented formal logic. This is difficult to overstate. Modern science, philosophy, mathematics, law, and rational inquiry all stand partly upon foundations Aristotle built. He created systems for determining whether an argument is valid. This structure became revolutionary because Aristotle believed truth requires disciplined thinking, not emotional impulse, not manipulation, not popularity, reason. And this becomes deeply important today because modern society is drowning in emotional chaos. People react before thinking, judge before understanding, condemn before investigating. Aristotle would view this as intellectual degeneration. He believed the highest human faculty is reason, not instinct. Reason separates humans from animals. Reason allows civilization. Reason allows justice. Reason allows progress. And when reason collapses, society collapses with it. One reason Aristotle remains timeless is because he understood human nature with terrifying accuracy. He recognized that humans are not purely rational. We are emotional creatures pulled between appetite and wisdom. Part of us seeks greatness. Another part seeks comfort. Part seeks truth. Another seeks illusion. And Aristotle believed the purpose of philosophy was to bring order to the soul, not merely intellectual entertainment. This is critical. Today, philosophy is often treated like abstract discussion. For Aristotle, philosophy was practical survival. It was about becoming capable of living properly. And he believed the soul itself had layers. The vegetative soul, shared with plants, concerned growth and survival. The animal soul, shared with animals, concerned desire and emotion. And the rational soul, unique to humans, concerned thought and wisdom. The tragedy of humanity, according to Aristotle, is that many people never rise beyond the lower parts of themselves. They live through appetite, impulse, pleasure, fear. But the highest human life emerges only when reason governs desire, not suppressing emotion completely, but mastering it. This idea later influenced Stoicism, Christianity, Islamic philosophy, Renaissance thought, and modern psychology. Aristotle's fingerprints are everywhere. Now here is something astonishing. Aristotle did not only study politics and metaphysics, he studied friendship, and his analysis remains brutally relevant. He believed there are 3 types of friendships. Friendships of utility, friendships of pleasure, friendships of virtue. The first exists because both people gain something: money, connections, advantage. The second exists because people enjoy each other: entertainment, excitement, pleasure. But the third, the highest form, is based on mutual admiration of character. 2 people committed to growth, truth, and virtue together. Aristotle believed these friendships are rare. Extremely rare, because most human relationships are transactional, and this becomes painfully obvious in difficult times. The moment status disappears, the moment wealth disappears, the moment success disappears, false friendships vanish. Aristotle understood human loyalty long before modern psychology. He knew most people love what you provide, not who you are, which is why he believed wise people must choose companions carefully, because eventually you become your environment. Aristotle also became one of history's greatest political thinkers. But unlike utopian philosophers, he distrusted fantasy. He studied real governments, real societies, real human flaws, and he concluded something shocking. No political system survives if the people themselves lack virtue. This is devastatingly important, because Aristotle believed corruption begins inside individuals before it infects institutions. A greedy population creates greedy leaders. A cowardly society creates tyranny. A shallow culture creates manipulation. Politics reflects character. And Aristotle warned democracy itself can decay. Not because democracy is evil, but because emotional crowds are easily manipulated. When people seek pleasure over wisdom, leaders become performers instead of statesmen. Sound familiar? Aristotle believed stable societies require education, virtue, law, balance, civic responsibility. Without those, civilization eventually collapses into chaos. And perhaps his most controversial idea was this: freedom without discipline becomes self-destruction. Modern society often worships unlimited freedom. Aristotle would ask, freedom for what? To become wiser, stronger, more virtuous, or merely more indulgent? Because without purpose, freedom becomes emptiness. Today's success is often defined materially. Money, luxury, attention, influence. Aristotle thought this was deeply incomplete. He believed external success means nothing if the soul is corrupted. A rich coward is still miserable. A powerful tyrant is still broken. A famous fool is still foolish. This is why Aristotle believed virtue is superior to wealth, because wealth can disappear. Character remains. And yet Aristotle was not anti-success. Far from it. He admired excellence, achievement, capability, mastery. But he believed success must serve flourishing rather than vanity. This is the difference between greatness and narcissism. One builds meaning. The other builds illusion. Now, we enter Aristotle's deepest territory: metaphysics, the study of existence itself. Aristotle asked questions most people avoid entirely. Why does anything exist? What causes change? What is being itself? And from this came one of his most famous concepts: the four causes. Aristotle believed understanding requires four dimensions: material cause, what something is made of; formal cause, its structure or form; efficient cause, what created it; final cause, its purpose. This last one became revolutionary. Final cause, purpose. Aristotle believed nature itself acts toward ends. Seeds aim toward trees. Acorns aim toward oaks. Humans aim toward flourishing. Nothing in his worldview was random chaos. Existence possessed order. direction, potential. And eventually, Aristotle reasoned, there must be an ultimate source behind motion itself. The unmoved mover. A perfect eternal reality that initiates all motion without itself being moved. This idea later profoundly influenced Christian, Islamic, and Jewish theology. Even medieval religion absorbed Aristotle's framework. That is how influential he became. He did not merely shape philosophy, he shaped civilization. Aristotle believed knowledge begins with observation. This separated him sharply from Plato, instead of escaping the physical world. Aristotle studied it obsessively. Animals, plants, governments, poetry, language, memory, behavior. He dissected reality, piece by piece. And in many ways, he became the ancestor of science itself, because Aristotle insisted that understanding requires evidence, classification, analysis, systematic inquiry. Was he wrong about certain scientific conclusions? Of course. But his method changed humanity forever. He taught civilization to investigate reality systematically, and this spirit later gave birth to science itself. This next part is fascinating for anyone creating content, films, stories, or videos. Aristotle analyzed storytelling deeply in his work Poetics, and his understanding still dominates Hollywood today. He believed great stories create catharsis, emotional purification. Through tragedy, audiences confront fear, suffering, ambition, and human weakness safely. This is why humans are drawn toward dramatic stories. We see ourselves in them. Aristotle understood storytelling as psychological transformation, not mere entertainment. A great story changes the soul, and he believed the most powerful characters possess tragic flaws. Pride, obsession, blindness, ambition. These flaws eventually destroy them, because Aristotle recognized something eternal. Human beings are often destroyed by the very qualities that make them powerful. That insight alone explains countless historical figures and countless modern lives. Most people think ancient philosophy is irrelevant, but Aristotle still dominates modern civilization invisibly. Universities, logic, scientific classification, political theory, ethics, literary analysis, psychology, education. His influence is embedded everywhere. Even the structure of rational debate owes something to Aristotle. And what makes him terrifyingly relevant today is this. He understood human weakness better than most modern thinkers. He knew societies decay when pleasure replaces virtue. He knew emotional manipulation threatens reason. He knew discipline matters. He knew character matters. He knew greatness requires training. And he knew that without purpose, human beings drift toward emptiness. Look around today. Infinite distraction, infinite stimulation, infinite entertainment, yet rising anxiety, meaninglessness, identity crises, emotional instability. Aristotle would not be surprised, because he believed flourishing requires alignment between action, reason, and purpose. Without that, the soul fragments. So what does Aristotle ultimately teach us? If we condense his philosophy into a blueprint, it becomes something astonishingly practical. Master your habits, train your character, seek truth rationally, control impulses, pursue excellence, Choose wise friendships. Avoid destructive extremes. Live purposefully. Develop reason. Serve something higher than pleasure. This is not merely ancient philosophy. This is psychological architecture. And Aristotle believed this path leads toward the highest human possibility. Not perfection. Flourishing. Becoming fully alive. But Aristotle also leaves humanity with a warning. Potential means nothing unused. A brilliant mind wasted by laziness is tragic. A strong soul destroyed by indulgence is tragic. A civilization consumed by excess is tragic. Because everything decays when discipline disappears. And perhaps that is why Aristotle remains immortal. Not because he answered every question, but because he understood the eternal struggle inside every human being. The war between appetite and wisdom, comfort and greatness, impulse and mastery, pleasure and meaning. And that war still defines humanity today. So now the question becomes, what kind of person will you become? Will you live reactively, drifting through life, pulled by algorithms, distractions, impulses, and shallow pleasures? Or will you consciously shape yourself? Because Aristotle believed destiny is not found. It is constructed, action by action, habit by habit, choice by choice. And maybe that is the most powerful lesson of all. You are becoming something every single day. The only question is, what? If this video transformed your understanding of Aristotle, make sure you subscribe and join this journey into philosophy, psychology, power, history, and human transformation. And I want you to comment below, which teaching of Aristotle hit you the hardest? Discipline, purpose, virtue, reason, or self-mastery? I will personally read the most powerful responses. And if you want a free transformational guide designed to help you master discipline, clarity, and inner strength, email transformation to the Stoic Path 33@gmail.com. And remember, from Aristotle, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. From the School of Athens' next video, we dive deeper into the minds of the greatest philosophers. I'll see you in the next video.